subscribe and click the bell icon to turn on notifications.
In this module, I want to talk to you about how QuickBooks Online handles sales tax. As a quick reminder, this demonstration is going to be using sales tax for the US version of QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online will be smart enough to handle the sales tax quirks for various states, and specifically, it will calculate how the tax is different for brick and mortar stores where the sale takes place at one given location versus for service providers where the tax will apply at the location where the service took place. So for example, if you have a brick and mortar store, it's going to calculate the sales tax at the location of your store. Let's get started. Module 3-2, Sales Tax Settings. In this module, I'm going to show you how to locate and update the sales tax settings within your QuickBooks Online. To locate your sales tax within QuickBooks Online, you'll go to the gray bar on the left-hand side of your screen. You'll come down to the word taxes toward the bottom, and you'll select sales tax. A quick note, you may not see all the things that I see when I hover over taxes. I've enabled a couple other settings for these videos. If you don't see the same pop-outs that I see, don't worry about that. You're just going to click on sales tax. When I'm looking at my sales tax, if I had any tax due for sales happening in March in the state of Washington, over to the right in kind of faint text, I can see how much is coming due or will be owed. What I want to show you is the sales tax settings, which are located in the upper right-hand corner of my screen. When I click on the blue hyperlink that says sales tax settings, it's going to give me a chance to review my sales tax. I currently have set up or told QuickBooks that I need to collect sales tax for the Washington State Department of Revenue, that I file my sales tax yearly, that my tax period begins in January and ends in December, and that I'm going to start collecting tax as of 2012. I can see that I've told QuickBooks Online that I'm also collecting for the Idaho Department of Revenue, that it's also yearly, that my calendar year begins in January, and I'll begin collecting tax as of January 1st, 2022. If I want to add a tax agency, I simply click Add Tax Agency in the upper right-hand corner. I can choose the agency I'd like to collect tax for. So let's go ahead and do Alabama. I can choose my frequency in which that I'll be filing. I'll choose quarterly. And I can say, when does this begin? And I'll go ahead and say it starts April 1st. I'm going to click Save in the lower right-hand corner. And it adds it to my list. What this means is that QuickBooks Online will keep track of the taxes that I'm collecting for the various agencies. Setting up my sales tax settings is just as simple as you saw. I just tell QuickBooks where I'll be collecting sales tax. In the next module, I'm going to talk to you about how to flag particular products and services as taxable products and services so that when you generate an invoice or a sales receipt, they will automatically be flagged as a product or service that needs to have sales tax applied to it. Module 3-3, Taxable Products and Services. In the previous module, I showed you how to set up the sales tax settings so you could tell QuickBooks you will be collecting sales tax. In this module, I'm going to talk to you about how to flag products and services as taxable or non-taxable by default. We're going to start by going to the Products and Services list. To get there, we'll click on the gear in the upper right-hand corner. When this opens, on the left-hand side under the word List, we're going to go to Products and Services. I can see my list of products and services here. I have 4 items. On the right-hand side, I can see taxable, and I can see the presence or absence of a check mark. The presence of a check mark means, by default, this particular product or service will be taxable. Let's go ahead and change consulting to be a taxable product or service. I'm going to click on the word Edit to the right of consulting. When I do this, it brings up the card for consulting, so that I can do things such as change the name, change the default description, or come down and change the sales tax category. For the purpose of this example, I'd like to change the sales tax category. I'm going to change it from non-taxable to taxable. I'm then going to say Save and Close. Now I can see when I look at my products and services list that consulting is a taxable item. If I wanted to make something not taxable, such as this widget product, I can click on Edit to the right. I can go to the bottom where it currently says Taxable Standard Rate. I can change this drop down to say Non-Taxable, and then Save and Close. It no longer has a check mark on the right saying taxable. There's another way to get here, and I want to show you what that is. If we go back to taxes and then we go to sales tax, I can then go to the shortcut on the right-hand side that says Update Products and Services, and this just gives me the same list I was looking at a moment ago. In this module, I showed you how to get to your products and services list 2 ways, and how to make products or services either taxable or not taxable. In the next module, I'm going to show you how to create an invoice where sales tax is applied to that invoice. Module 3-4, Create an invoice with sales tax. In this module, I want to show you how to create an invoice where sales tax is applied to some of the products and services by default. Let's start by making a new invoice. We'll click on Plus New in the upper left-hand corner. Under the Customers column, we'll click on the word Invoice. We'll go ahead and choose Matt. For this invoice for Matt, we're going to give him a couple of things. And so we're going to give him some consulting, and we're also going to give him some sales. Make the sales $10. What's happened with this is consulting by default is set up as a taxable product and service. Sales is not. The location of the sale is going to be my business address in Bellevue. So we're going to pretend this is a brick and mortar sale and that he's purchased something that is subject to sales tax and something that is not subject to sales tax. It doesn't matter where Matt lives because the sales tax applies to the location of the sale. When I scroll down, I can see the tax rate is based on location. I can have a custom rate. I definitely do not recommend that. I can see that the tax is $100.90. I know that's true because I only have one taxable item here. If both items were taxable and for some reason sales just wasn't set up to be a taxable item, but it should be, I know I can fix it later, but on the fly, right now, I need to make it taxable on my invoice. I can do that by clicking on this little blank box under the word tax, and I can put a green check mark there and I can say, you know what, please make this $10 service taxable as well. Now my sales tax is updated to $101. I can show you that in reverse. Let's imagine the $10 was marked as taxable, but for some reason it should not apply. I can uncheck the taxable box. It's going to update my tax from 101 to 100. When I'm happy, I can click Save and Close. The reason you might want to toggle something as taxable or not taxable is you might have a situation where a product or service is normally taxable, but somebody has presented you with a tax-exempt certificate, so you know that in their case, when you sell them that product or service, you do not need to collect sales tax. In this module, I showed you how to create an invoice with sales tax, how to toggle the tax on and off specific to customers. In the next module, I'm going to show you how to adjust the tax rate on the invoice, just in case the invoice is calculating the wrong tax rate. Module 3-5, Adjusting the tax rate on the invoice. In this module, I'm going to show you how to override the tax calculation. This should be done very rarely and by exception only, but sometimes there's cases where it makes sense. My best example for when this might apply to you is if you're entering information from previous years or earlier in this year, and QuickBooks is automatically calculating the sales tax to be today's rate, but perhaps at the time that the invoice occurred, the sales tax rate was a different number. I want to show you how to modify the tax rate on the invoice just in case this ever applies to you. Let's go ahead and create an invoice together and then we'll modify the tax rate. So I'm going to click on Plus New. I'm going to come down to Customers and select Invoice. I'm going to choose Matt. I'm going to say I'm making an invoice for 1/1/2020. I'm going to say that he purchased some consulting from us. He purchased 2 bundles and it was taxable. If I look down, I can see that the tax rate is based on location, which is correct, but it's calculating this as $199.80. And for any variety of reasons, I know that's not right, and I want it to update. I want it to calculate it differently. I can click on the words See the Math underneath the tax rate. When I do that, it's going to show me why it's calculating it the way it's calculating. It's saying 6.5% to Washington State and 3.5% to the city of Bellevue, and the tax rate is 10%. I can scroll down and see that it's calculating it based on the consulting. And I can say for any variety of reasons, I want to override the tax amount. Again, I want to emphasize that I do not encourage you to do this, but I do want you to know how to do it in case it ever applies and you ever need to know. To do this, you'll click on the blue Override This Amount. So I can change the rate. Currently the rate is 10%, and I can tell by looking up here in the upper right-hand corner. I can make the rate say 9%, for example. QuickBooks is giving me a warning. This is less than our calculations. That is 100% true. And then I can choose the reason. Whatever reason I want to include, I'm just going to say Other, and I'll click Confirm. When I do this, QuickBooks is showing me what the rate should have been and showing me what the rate is. So I've overrode this, and I said I want the tax to be $179.82. I'm then going to click Close. When I look at the invoice, the tax is now updated to be $179.82. That doesn't change how much you owe to the state, but it does update the invoice. Again, I encourage you to use this ability sparingly, but if you ever need to use it, I really wanted you to know how to do it. Once you're satisfied, you can click Save and Close. I'm going to go back to that invoice and reset the tax rate, just in case you do this but realize that you've made a mistake. I'm going to take the shortcut of clicking on the magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to go back to the invoice dated 1/1/2020. In the lower right-hand corner, I'm going to click on See the Math. I'm going to come down to the lower right-hand corner again and click on Reset to Recommended Value. And it just reset my tax back to where it should have been. I'll click Close and then Save and Close. In this module, I showed you how to adjust the tax rate on the invoice, how to save the invoice with the revised tax rate, how to go back to the invoice and reset the tax if you realize you've made a mistake. In the next module, I'm going to talk to you about the sales tax liability report. Specifically, what I want to show you is where to find how much you owe for sales tax liability so that you make sure to plan and not spend the money you've collected but later need to remit. Module 3-6, Sales Tax Liability Report. In this module, I'm going to show you how to locate and read your sales tax liability report. From within QuickBooks Online, you'll click on Reports in the left-hand side in the gray bar. In the upper right-hand corner, you can choose Find by Report Name. I will often just type in LIAB, short for liability, and then use my mouse to select Sales Tax Liability Report. If that's not your preference, you can always scroll down until you get to the sales tax section of the reports. It's going to be right here under the word sales tax. It'll say Sales Tax Liability Report. When I open up the Sales Tax Liability Report, it shows me my gross amount, also known as the total amount of my sales, my non-taxable amount of my sales, my taxable amount of my sales, and the tax amount I've collected, both for the state and the city. If I had collected sales tax for various cities within Washington, I would see those cities listed down below. If I need my sales tax liability report for the quarter and not just for last month, I can manually update the dates in the upper left-hand corner. Currently, I'm at 6/24. When I click Run Report, I go to 6/65. If I'm curious about any of these numbers, I can click on the number and it'll open up a detailer behind the scenes for that report. There's another way to find your sales tax liability report, and in case you like that method better, I want to show you what it is. On the left-hand side of your screen in the gray bar where it currently says Taxes, you can hover over Taxes and then select Sales Tax. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen, there's a blue hyperlink that says Reports. When you click on Reports, you have the ability to generate the Sales Tax Liability Report. And this brings you right back where we started. In this module, I showed you how to generate the Sales Tax Liability Report. In the next module, I'm going to show you how to review your sales tax return. Module 3-7, Record the Sales Tax Return. In this module, I'm going to show you how to record the sales tax return within QuickBooks Online. I'm also going to show you how to add an adjustment in case you need to for any reason. For example, in Washington State, we have to add an adjustment to reflect the B&O tax we're paying at the same time as we pay our sales tax. We'll click on Taxes on the left-hand side, and then we'll select Sales Tax. This takes us to our sales tax module. Let's go ahead and change the date range. I'm going to say from April through January, and then I'll select Refresh. By doing this, I'm asking QuickBooks to show me any sales tax that was due for the period of January through December of last year. Anybody who's curious, I started with April because my pretend business, Happy Land, begins in April. I didn't have any sales to record in January, February, or March. I'm going to go ahead and click on View Return on the right-hand side. QuickBooks is now telling me the sales tax that's owed. It says I had sales of $21,510. All of my sales were taxable and there was no sales that were not taxable. The amount of tax I've collected for the state is $1,300. The amount of tax I collected for the city is $700. And the total tax I've collected and need to remit is $2,151. What QuickBooks doesn't yet know about is the fact that I'm going to pay one check to the Department of Revenue. My one check is going to cover both my sales tax payable as well as my business and occupation tax, also known as my excise tax. When I go to file this at the State of Washington's website, the website will tell me how much the tax is that I need to remit along with the sales tax I've collected. I'm going to add an adjustment so that way when I record the payment in QuickBooks for the sales tax, it will match the amount of money I'm actually sending to the Department of Revenue. To add an adjustment, I'm going to click on the left-hand side where it says Add an Adjustment. When this opens, I'm going to select a reason. So you might have various reasons for adding an adjustment to the sales tax. In our case, we're just going to use the word Other. I'm going to make my adjustment date 12/31 of 2020. The reason I'm doing that is because this B&O tax would have been owed 12/31 of 2020. It wouldn't be owed today, even though I'm going to record and pay it today. I'm going to enter the amount. I'm just going to make believe that the amount is $250. You would actually know how much it is by filing the tax report online and letting the software tell you how much they're going to take out for business and occupation or penalties or anything else that might apply to you and your business. Once you have it added, you can go ahead and click the word Add in the lower right-hand corner. What this will do is this will update and this will say, okay, QuickBooks will record that you're deducting $2,400 from your bank account. And the reason you're deducting it is because you had $2,000 worth of sales tax and $250 worth of other. And other is the entry you've just made. If I wanted to, I can view my sales tax liability report. In this case, I'm just going to click on Record Payment. I can indicate how this is paid. So I can say tax amount is this much, that I'm paying it today. It's coming out of the bank account called my cash account. If I'm printing a check, I can select that here. Otherwise, I can just record payment if it's an automatic draft. Again, this is not taking the money out of your bank account. This is not filing your return. You'll still file the return like normal. This is just how you'll record it in QuickBooks so that QuickBooks knows that it got paid. There are other ways to record it in QuickBooks. You must record it this way to get the records to reflect correctly in the Sales Tax Center. If you wanted to, you can view the Sales Tax Liability Report. And that shows you this information here. I'm going to take you back to taxes and to sales tax. I want you to see how you can view previous reports. So right now, where previously it said pay, you can click on View Return. There's this information for you. If you wanted to, you could print it out and save it. Otherwise, you can leave it right here. It's going to be saved in your history. I'm going to go ahead and click Cancel. If you ever wanted to find it, your history is in the upper right-hand corner. If you click on the blue History, and then again, View Return. We've only done one example, so there's our one example. In this module, I showed you how to review your sales tax return, how to adjust the amount of money you're going to pay to your sales tax agency, and how to view your historical returns. In the next module, I'm going to show you how the reports change as a result of making the payments within your QuickBooks Online software. Module 3-8, Wrapping up the sales tax. In this module, I want to show you how the reports change as a result of the payments we made, and then just kind of recap what we've covered for sales tax. Let's start with reports. When we make a sale, our sale is going to be some portion of money to an income account and some portion of money to our sales tax liability account. The sales tax liability account appears on our balance sheet. Let's take a look at the balance sheet. I want to compare this year's balance sheet against last year's balance sheet. I'm going to click on Reports in the gray menu on the left-hand side of my screen. I'm then going to select the balance sheet report. I can see right now that I owe $685 to the Department of Revenue, and that's great, but I really want you to see all of your hard work in action. Let's go ahead and scroll up. We're going to change from this year to date and say all dates. We're going to say display columns by, and we'll say years. We'll choose Run Report. I'm going to go ahead and scroll back down so that I can look at the Department of Revenue. I can see at the end of last year I had $2401 owing, and as of now, I only owe $685. I'd like to see the history behind these so that I can more fully understand where the numbers come from. Let me go ahead and click on the 2401. When I click on the 2401, QuickBooks is going to show me all the reasons that that number comes to be. So at the beginning of my business, I have $69 owing, and then I add $129 and I add $34, and you can kind of see. The last entry is that $250 sales tax adjustment. That's when I adjusted for the Department of Revenue excise tax that I would be owing to the state of Washington. Let me go ahead and go back to my balance sheet report. I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to click on Back to Report Summary in the upper left-hand corner. I can now click on the $685 and see the history behind the $685. I know from looking at the top of my report, it's just going to show me for the year 2021. So when I click on this, it shows me what's happening. It says, all right, oh, and my balance on the right is cut off. You know, if this ever happens to you where the balance on the right is cut off, you can always click the little 3 lines to the left of your business name and collapse the gray bar, giving you just a little more space to read your reports. So now I can see that I started the year owing $2,400, and I've added to it with my sales receipts and my invoices. I can see on 3/27 I made a sales tax payment. This payment, just as a reminder, was for the tax owing last year. It's just I didn't make the payment until March of this year. After I made the payment, it's reducing my running balance of how much I owe for sales tax. The $685 you see here is the same $685 you saw in the balance sheet report. Let me go back and show you. And there it is, $685. That wraps up our module for sales tax. Within this module, I showed you how to set up your sales tax, how to adjust your sales tax settings, how to make taxable products and services, how to generate an invoice where some products and services will be taxable, how to adjust the tax rate on the invoice if it's calculated incorrectly, how to review your tax liability report, how to submit and tell QuickBooks you have paid your sales tax, and how to review the balance sheet and just verify that the money went where you expected it to go.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To get a free QuickBooks Online Essential Keyboard Shortcuts infographic, click over there. And click over there to watch more QuickBooks videos from Simon Says It.